This conference will now be recorded.
So, as we know that today's topic is how to grow your startup. Really, this is a topic which is really needed for our new engineers, which is graduated from the institutions. We are very happy and we are very proud that we have with us very experienced speaker, Mr. Utkarsh. We has a large experience of heading the various companies, and presently he is strategic head of Gravitas Artificial Intelligence. And artificial intelligence is the one area which is the most burning importance of the 2 days. As we know that in this corona period, all the students graduating from the institutions are desperately looking for the jobs. But our educational technology is in such a way that most of the education system which produce their engineers, their professionals, they all are the job seekers. But now time has come when we have such a aptitude and attitude that we should create our own some business or some our work, so that rather than being a job seeker, we should be a job creators. It is very, we are all the participants which are here, all are engineers, all are young brains, all are energetic, enthusiastic. They have very good idea in their brains, but only thing is that the idea is easy to realize, but when it comes to the reality that you have to implement it, really it becomes very hard, because we are not having such a platform where one can go for finalizing his ideas and just making it fruitful. So such a environment is very, very necessary, and Government of India has already put the Atal Incubation Center where students can go and patent their ideas, and with the facility of their mentors and guidance of their mentors, one can grow his idea. But still there is, we feel as an engineer, as a professional, that still there is a gap, how our young engineers are not coming forward with their ideas and further implementing it in reality. So in such a condition, we can see that we must have such a seminar, and institution has felt that we should organize such a webinar on this topic. And we are very happy and we are very grateful to Mr. Utkarsh sir, who is with us, and he will really deal with such topic and make our students' vision very clear, so that one has, if ideas, one can grow, one to know how we have to proceed further. So thanks for coming and sparing time from a large overseas distance to India. We welcome from Rima Engineering College, Rima, our this speaker, Mr. Utkarsh sir. And also I thankful to our principal sir, Dr. B.K. Agrawal, who is always motivating and very guiding for organizing such a webinar for the institution. And we are very happy that Professor Himanshu Dixit and whole his team and Professor Mohesh Mohan all has really done work hard to implement this webinar. And today we are here sitting for this webinar. So thank you. We hope that we have a good webinar for our students and we have a good benefit from this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words.
Sir.
Our honorable principal, Dr. B.K. Agrawal, sir, is the chief patron of this webinar. But because of an urgent meeting, he will not be joining us today. But his support and well wishes is always there with us. Now, I request our distinguished guest, Mr. K. Utkarsh, to start the webinar presentation.
Sure, thank you so much. And thank you for that, as I said, that generous introduction and the words that you said, HOD sir. I would say that, yeah, you are very true that, sometimes there are ideas in our minds. It happened with me as well in the past. And going back to 2011 and 12, when I had a few things in my mind and I was not able to exactly do it. Probably because I was not exactly aware ki, karna kaise hai. So it happened with me, and there's a article that I wrote on LinkedIn as well, which would help you relate if you go through it. that I missed a very big thing. I mean, if I would have probably done that startup idea back then, so I could have been a very different sort of a person today. But there were some challenges, and there were some what do you say, some stuffs which I didn't know exactly. Ki, how do I progress? Who do I talk to? How do I get, say, investors? And how exactly I put up my entire business model. So it was a pain. But yeah, I think in today's world, when we have so many elegant people around us, I'm just a small warrior in this part where I'm trying to help startups grow their business. Uh, I think it's important that we leverage whatever facilities and whatever ideas we have around so that we can, at least grow up whatever we have in our mind and we can actually implement it. So with those thoughts, I would start sharing my screen. Let me know when you guys can see. Mhm.
Sir, it is visible.
Okay, how do I? Yeah. Okay. So, talking about startups, I would say, so I have been a little lucky, I would say, or a little fortunate in my life that there were a lot of startups which I had worked in earlier. It started back in 2011-12, working with startups from Bangalore. So there are 2 or 3 of them in India, which have fully grown into a very huge organization. One is from Bangalore called Pace Wisdom. Then there is another organization from India which works in science projects and stuff like that called Integrous Labs. So these are of my very, very well-known friends who have grown it to some amazing levels now. Then I had been very fortunate to be associated with a few startups back then in 2014, 2015 when I was doing my MBA, like quicker.com, where you buy and sell things, question here, Max Embedded. Then there is a startup in e-commerce for supplying medicines. You can buy medicines online. It's primarily in Kolkata, but it was supposed to go all over India. I'm not sure what exactly happened there because I was not in touch after that, but that's called supplymedicine.com. So there have been a few instances where I have been able to, get in touch with these guys and build up their business plan, their roadmaps of how to proceed in the future. These all experiences, of course, have enabled me to, kind of grow into a good experienced professional. And when I moved to UK, I started working for Gravitas AI, where again, their trademark product, which is called as Tina. So it's a chatbot. Okay, it's a chatbot. It's a AI-enabled chatbot which has its own, natural language processing engines, and she keeps on growing and she keeps on learning as and when you interact with Tina. So so Tina is the name. So I'm trying to market Tina and take it to the world and explore different sort of avenues there. Uh, so of course, this is one of the topics which is very close and very interesting to me. So let's begin. So this is just a quick introduction about me. I think it's already very well explained by the students and the organizers. But yeah, I'm very passionate about a few things in my life, especially to solve problems. So I love when I see a problem and I would try to get into it, try to get into the details, and then I'll try to solve and find out what can be the best way to do, or what should be the best way to go ahead. I love data because I believe that data has empowered us today, and that is something which is very crucial to either grow an existing organization or grow a new organization. So you would have always heard about stories about organizations which were in the past huge organizations, like say for example Xerox Corporation, right, the photocopy one. So they went out of business, correct? Now why did they go out of business? Or say Kodak, why did they lose their business? Probably because they did not shift into the new way of delivering things. I mean, these two, for example, they are case studies which we study at MBA colleges to understand what not to do so that you can grow your business, right? So they're both aspects: what you should do to grow your business, and what you should not do to grow your business. So I think data in this 2020, in this particular century, in this particular year that we are living in, data is now going to play a very crucial role, and we have data being generated from everything around us. Even right now when we are talking, probably we are generating huge sets of data, understanding probably how many participants are there, what are the interest area, what are the topics that I'm talking about, and everything can be quantified into numbers so that they can be processed and then taken up to understand what should be done, again, to assist in key business decision making. So data is something I really love to deep dive into and understand what should be done by an organization or as an individual. Besides, I am very passionate about music. I play the guitar. I love driving great cars, and I'm also very passionate about stock markets. So this is just in brief about me. Okay, so we'll begin with a very confusing terminology, or a very confusing what do you say difference which people often try to understand. So what is a business, and then what is a startup? And these two, actually, they are very similar, right? You do both of these, the end result is that you are generating revenue, you are earning money, right? पैसे कमाने के लिए ही सब बिजनेस करते हैं, पैसे कमाने के लिए ही बहुत लोग स्टार्टअप भी करते हैं. But there are certain differences जो कि we should be able to understand. For example, you know not all businesses are startup, okay, but all startups eventually evolve into a business, okay. Like for example, Amazon or Flipkart back in India, when they started back in, I think, 2011-12, when Flipkart was just booming up, it was a startup. Why? Because there were no fixed or defined business model. They were still evolving. When they started actually delivering the products, so this was something new that they were doing, okay. So the first difference that comes to our mind is, it was a completely new idea, it was a completely fresh idea. There was no such thing in India before, which was probably selling products online and delivering products to the customer at their doorstep. So I'm sorry, I'm getting a little noise. Can you mute yourself? Okay. So so back then, what were they trying to do? So they were trying to do something very different. No other company was probably getting into the market and delivering the products to the customer at their doorstep. So that was a new business model altogether, and they were still not established, right? Because if you see the journey of, say, Flipkart alone, so when they started, they probably then started with collaboration with a lot of courier companies, okay, where they were saying, okay, fine, I have got an order, so say a Blue Dart or a First Flight or similar courier companies, you go and deliver this to the customer. That was the business model when they started. Again, it would be probably because of many challenges, maybe financial in nature, or maybe operational in nature, or maybe they were not getting enough partners. But eventually, if you see today, they have their own supply chain system, right? They have their own logistics system, which is that e-cart in India. So now, at least, if you look at say Flipkart, you would see that for the last 2 to 3 years they are operating in this way. They established their business model by having their own warehouse, right, from where where they actually procure and supply to the customer. They have multiple other shops or retailers who are also on their platform, who also sell through Flipkart, and also same way through Amazon. And then they have got their own supply chain network where their own courier guy, that particular person would go and that would supply or deliver that particular item. So now they have an established business model that this is how we are going to serve to our customers. So probably if you look at Flipkart now, 8 or 10 years down the line from when they started, now they're probably an established business house. But back then they were a startup. So what I'm trying to say here is, it's very important to understand कि what is the difference between the business and a startup. Because I have seen this, there are a lot of my friends who say, अरे यार startup करना है, तो क्या करना है? तो I will open up a restaurant. I will open up a food chain. I know I have done work with a few of my friends to establish their food chain in Mumbai. So they would say कि यार startup करना है, I would open up a food joint and I would open up it in this particular mall in Mumbai, and then I would plan to grow it. Sorry, boss, that is not a startup. That is a business. You already have an established industry, which is the food industry. You already are trying to, capture some revenue out of that particular industry. So, say 100 rupees is being spent in that industry, which is being shared by four other food joints. You are just trying to be the fifth one. कि भाई तुम्हें भी 100 रुपए में से 10 रुपए आ जाएं तुम्हारे पास. So that is just a business. Startup would be something where you do something different, like Zomato, yeah, Swiggy, where you try to deliver food to customers from restaurants जिसका नाम भी उन्होंने नहीं सुना, right? What has Zomato done, or what has Uber Eats or Swiggy done? We can order from restaurants जिनको we did not even know. हमें पता भी नहीं था कि भाई हमारे बगल वाली गली में there is a food joint which sells amazing biryani, for example. But now we are able to order and get it at our doorstep. So this is what, there should be a difference and understanding कि भाई मैं business कर रहा हूँ या मैं startup कर रहा हूँ. So if I talk about Gravitas AI right now, where I'm working, so here what we are exactly working on and what we are exactly doing is we have prepared this chatbot Tina. Now what Tina does is, for example, when you go to a bank, I'll give you just an example which we recently worked on. So मान लो you have gone to a bank, and when you go to a bank, आपने से आपको अकाउंट ओपन करना है, तो आप इतने लंबे लाइन में खड़े हो. जब आपका नंबर आया, आप काउंटर पे गए, then you are talking to the counter sales guy. You are asking for a lot of forms to fill in, a lot of details to fill in, right? So Tina क्या करती है कि when you talk to Tina, you can have a kiosk in your bank, for example, or on the website or on the app, and say मुझे बैंक अकाउंट खोलना. I directly go to Tina, talk to her, tell her that I want to open up a bank account. She behaves like that person जो काउंटर पे बैठा है. She talks to me like that. I can type and talk to her. I can directly voice talk to her. Tina can talk to me in 80 languages, irrespective of the way I start. So maybe मैं एक conversation उससे start करूँ English में, but I then start talking in Hindi. So she would start responding to me in Hindi. So this way, what happens exactly is कि we have created a new business model there. We are trying to add a convenience to the customer कि आपको लाइन में नहीं खड़ा होना पड़ रहा है, आपको इतना फॉर्म नहीं भरना पड़ रहा है. टीना से बात करते करते टीना कब आपका इंफॉर्मेशन आपसे कैप्चर कर ली कि अच्छा आपका पैन नंबर क्या है, ये वो, मतलब आप बात करते करते इस तरह उसने आपसे सारा इंफॉर्मेशन ले लिया कि आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा कि 10 मिनट में आपका बैंक अकाउंट खुल गया. So this is what we are trying to sell. I mean, again, I just gave one example in terms of banking. We have presence or we have capability across multiple industries. So this can be called as a startup. But of course, 10 years down the line, when suppose there are similar organizations, it would again be evolved into a business house. So this is very important to understand. I hope I'm clear there. And of course, questions can be asked towards the end of this webinar. Now, when you have an idea or when you want to go into the market, okay, within startup, so this is very interesting and this is my favorite piece now. Okay, so now we will have a story, right? अभी हम लोग एक कहानी की तरह, let's try to look at this in form of a story. एक कहानी की तरह इसको देखते हैं. तो ये मेरा बहुत interesting topic है because this is something which a lot of time people don't exactly pay attention to, but and this is a very underrated framework in business, but it is very important. So suppose you want to open up a startup, okay, so the first thing that you should do or that you would be interested to know and understand is कि the value proposition or the product that you have made up or the service that you have made up, who are my customers, right? It's very important to understand कि मेरे customers कौन हैं. So we call them as customer segments. अभी simple सा एक example है. If suppose talk from a point of view of business alone, okay, suppose आपका AC का business है, okay, you are a manufacturer of an AC. राइट? अभी अगर आपको एसी बेचना है सपोज करो दुनिया में, तो प्रोबेबली आप आइसलैंड और ग्रीनलैंड में जाके एसी नहीं बेचोगे, क्योंकि वहां ऑलरेडी बर्फ ही बर्फ है, राइट? वहां पे कोई फायदा नहीं एसी बेच के। तो बहुत जरूरी है समझना कि मेरा सेगमेंट का है। तो प्रोबेबली एसी मार्केट में मेरा सेगमेंट होगा ट्रॉपिकल रीजन, इक्वेटर के आसपास के कंट्रीज, अगर मैं ग्लोबली जाऊं तो वो समझना जरूरी है। और ये समझना जरूरी है कि वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन क्या है, मेरा प्रोडक्ट या मेरा जो सर्विस है वो क्या है। तो एक प्रोडक्ट है आपके पास और सामने आपके कस्टमर है, उस प्रोडक्ट को आपको कस्टमर तक पहुंचाना है। यू वांट दैट कस्टमर टू नो कि दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट दैट you have built up, it's really good, it's really something very interesting, and it will be very convenient, or it will add a value to the customer's life. बट कस्टमर तो दूर है, जैसा ये फोटो में भी मैंने बनाने की कोशिश की है, तो कस्टमर इज अ लिटिल फार अवे, राइट? सो when you have the customer and the product already clear in your mind, then you have to understand ki how does the value reaches your customer. So these are called the channels. Okay, like for example, say for example, this thing everybody आजकल सब लोग करते हैं, this is the movie industry. Okay, now अभी कोविड के वजह से वी हैव दिस लॉकडाउन एंड ऑल, बट हाउ डिड अ मूवी रीच टू अ कस्टमर? So how it always used to reach, so it always used to reach through a multiplex, right? Inox, PVR, इसमें जाके होता था मूवी का स्क्रीनिंग, लोग टिकट खरीद के जाके मूवी देखते थे. This is how it used to happen. So that was one channel कि भाई मेरा जो प्रोडक्ट है वो कस्टमर तक जा रहा है. अभी नए चैनल्स एक्सप्लोर किए गए हैं. एंड व्हाट आर दीज न्यू चैनल्स? नेटफ्लिक्स, Amazon प्राइम. व्हाट आर दीज एग्जैक्टली? दे आर जस्ट वेब चैनल्स, राइट? सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड नो कि आपका जो कस्टमर है और आपका जो प्रोडक्ट है, तो आपका प्रोडक्ट आपके कस्टमर तक कैसे जा रहा है. तो जब भी you are planning for a startup or you're trying to establish your own business, you should have a very clear idea in your mind कि this is my customer, this is my product, and this is how my product will reach to my customer. Starting में it can be one way to reach, right? जैसे Flipkart, it was only one way to reach कि they collaborated with different courier houses and उन लोगों ने सामान पहुंचाया कस्टमर तक. बाद में उन्होंने खुद का एक लॉजिस्टिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एक लॉजिस्टिक कंपनी खोल दिया. So that's fine, but there should be channels and you should know कि कैसे उन चैनल से हमें पहुंचना है कस्टमर तक. And the fourth important component in this, while building up your business, it is the relationship. So जब आपने प्रोडक्ट बना लिया, आपके पास कस्टमर था, आपका प्रोडक्ट था, आपने एक प्रोडक्ट को कस्टमर तक पहुंचा दिया. नाउ इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू नो कि भाई उस कस्टमर को प्रोडक्ट लगा कैसा, और उस कस्टमर को एग्जैक्टली कुछ फीडबैक है, उस कस्टमर के पास कुछ ऐसा पॉइंट है जिससे हम अपने प्रोडक्ट को और अच्छा बना सकते हैं. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू बिल्ड अप द कस्टमर रिलेशनशिप्स एज वेल. देर आर डिफरेंट वेज टू डू इट. बहुत बार हम लोग स्टार रेटिंग देते हैं, रिव्यू लिखते हैं, बहुत बार सर्वे आता है, आपने देखा होगा, लाइक स्पेशली इन बैंक्स. जब बैंक में कस्टमर केयर पे बात कर लो तो उनके साइड से एक ईमेल आता है वेयर दे हैव अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, लाइक किया, नहीं लाइक किया, कंप्लीटली अग्री एंड स्टफ्स लाइक दैट. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि मैं अपने कस्टमर के साथ रिलेशनशिप कैसा बना के रख रहा हूँ. क्योंकि अगर मैं अपने कस्टमर का मान लो कोई इशू हो गया, फॉर एग्जांपल in a delivery, say at a e-commerce company, so it is very important to address the challenge that the customer has. क्योंकि as an e-commerce company, for example, अगर मैं एक Flipkart या Amazon का I am the owner of a Flipkart or an Amazon, तो मेरे लिए एक एक कस्टमर जरूरी है, राइट? क्योंकि आज जिस कस्टमर ने मुझसे एक बार ऑर्डर किया है, कल वो कस्टमर बार बार ऑर्डर कर सकता है, राइट? तो ये बहुत जरूरी है कि योर रिलेशनशिप विद द कस्टमर कीप्स ग्रोइंग एंड इट्स ऑलवेज इंटैक्ट. इवेंचुअली ऑल दीज फोर थिंग्स, आपका प्रोडक्ट कैसे कस्टमर को जा रहा है, कस्टमर के साथ रिलेशनशिप कैसा है ताकि कस्टमर बार बार ऑर्डर करे, इवेंचुअली ऑल दीज थिंग्स align to your revenue stream, right? So on your screen right now there are basically 5 components which I have built up. Okay, 5 चीजें हैं आपके स्क्रीन पे. Customer value और the product, how does the product reaches the customer, relationship कैसा है कस्टमर के साथ, eventually वो 5th चीज आता है इन चारों से, which is the revenue, जो कि is the most important thing, right? Everybody is working for money here. So these are the 5 things which are important from a outbound point of view कि प्रोडक्ट कैसे मैन्युफैक्चर करके कस्टमर तक पहुंचाते हैं. अभी वो प्रोडक्ट जो है, तो फॉर मेकिंग दैट प्रोडक्ट you have to also identify ki what are the resources, exactly what do you need so that you can build that product. Okay, now these products are built up in different ways, right? So for example, if you are a service organization, आपको कुछ और चाहिए, maybe आपको लोग चाहिए, you need more people to work, right? But say if you are a product organization, maybe you don't need more people, but probably you need different sort of infrastructure or different sort of say for example आपका एक म्यूजिकल बैंड है. ओके, तो अगर आपका एक म्यूजिकल बैंड है, तो आपको एक परफॉर्मेंस के लिए गिटार चाहिए, एक तबला चाहिए, ड्रम्स चाहिए एंड स्टफ्स लाइक दैट. मे बी लोग सिर्फ 5 चाहिए, बट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स ज्यादा चाहिए, स्पीकर्स चाहिए, वायर्स चाहिए. तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि व्हाट आर द रिसोर्सेज दैट यू नीड. अब रिसोर्सेज आ गया तो एक्टिविटीज, राइट? व्हाट आर द एक्टिविटीज दैट यू डू. तो म्यूजिक बैंड का जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल हम लोग फिर से बात करते हैं, तो आपके पास सारे रिसोर्सेज आ गए, आपके पास लोग आ गए, आपके पास बैंड्स आ गए, सारे म्यूजिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट आ गए, बट उससे तो रेवेन्यू नहीं जनरेट होगा, राइट? क्या करना होगा कि रेवेन्यू जनरेट होना स्टार्ट हो? तो देयर वुड बी फ्यू एक्टिविटीज दैट यू हैव टू डू. फॉर एग्जांपल, आपको अपने गाने लिखने होंगे, हो सकता है. फॉर एग्जांपल हो सकता है कि आपको हो सकता है कि यू विल हैव टू कोलैबोरेट विद पीपल, मल्टीपल पीपल, एंड देन यू हैव टू राइट योर लिरिक्स, यू हैव टू मेक योर ओन म्यूजिक. आपको धुन बनानी होगी, आपको म्यूजिक बनाना होगा. तो दोज आर प्रोबब्ली फ्यू एक्टिविटीज जो आपको करना होगा, ताकि आपका जो प्रोडक्ट है या आपका जो सर्विस है, ओके, वो आगे कस्टमर तक पहुंच सके. Then, as I said, partnerships. So there would be few key partnerships that you would have to take in. What are those key partnerships? Those partnerships are like, say for example, you want say अब आपको म्यूजिक जो है उसको लेकर के जाना है मार्केट में, आप चाहते हो कि कस्टमर आपके म्यूजिक को सुने, तो you might have to collaborate with few music companies, or you might have to collaborate with a few of the people who are probably into organizing events जहां पे आपका बैंड का परफॉर्मेंस हो सके, right? So this is what would it require some investment, right? आपको resources चाहिए, तो आपको खरीदारी करनी होगी. आपको अगर लोग चाहिए, रिसोर्सेज में अगेन लोग भी आते हैं, तो अगर आपको लोग भी चाहिए तो उन्हें आपको सैलरी पे करना होगा या उनका एक्सपेक्टेशन मीट करना होगा. अगर आप एक्टिविटीज करेंगे, जैसे मैंने बोला कि आप म्यूजिक बनाओगे, या आप अगर मान लो कि कुछ से लिरिक्स लिखते हो या कुछ वैसा कुछ करते हो, तो उस केस में अगेन आपको कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट करना होगा. पार्टनरशिप अगर आप करते हो तो वहां भी आपको इन्वेस्टमेंट होगा, बिकॉज आपको लोगों के साथ कोलैबोरेट करना होगा, कुछ मॉडल जनरेट करना होगा. तो इवेंचुअली ये जो लेफ्ट साइड की 3 चीजें हैं जो मैंने अभी बोली, these are nothing but these actually are your cost structure. These actually align to your cost. Okay, so in a nutshell, if मैं आपको क्विकली ओवरऑल अगर आप ये देखो जो सामने आपके फोटो है, तो से आपके पास ये वैल्यू एड था, ये वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन था, एक प्रोडक्ट था, राइट? प्रोडक्ट मान लो वही था कि आप लाइव परफॉर्मेंस देते हो आपके बैंड के साथ, ताकि कस्टमर तक आपका म्यूजिक पहुंच सके. तो कस्टमर आपके सामने है ना, हाउ डज योर म्यूजिक रीच आउट टू योर कस्टमर? आप कॉन्सर्ट कर सकते हो, राइट? चैनल जो ये ट्रक जो बना हुआ है, सो चैनल्स, आप कॉन्सर्ट कर सकते हो स्टेज पे, या फिर आप ऑनलाइन यूट्यूब पे अपना वीडियोस गाना डाल सकते हो. रिलेशनशिप, कस्टमर को पसंद आ रहा है, नहीं आ रहा है, कस्टमर दोबारा सुनेगा कि नहीं मेरा म्यूजिक, ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है, जो चौथा कंपोनेंट है. इवेंचुअली ये चारों चीज मुझे रेवेन्यू देती है, एंड इन चीजों को करने के लिए मुझे रिसोर्सेज चाहिए, एक्टिविटीज है और पार्टनरशिप्स. तो ये जो पूरा फ्रेमवर्क है, now this is very important thing which is taught in management studies. MBA में ये पढ़ाया जाता है, but unfortunately मैंने ये देखा है अपने experience में, and what I have understood is that this is a very undervalued or less utilized framework. This is called as the business model canvas. Okay, so whenever you are trying to build up your own business, it's very important to pay an attention to all these 9 elements. So there are 9 elements in this business model canvas, 5 on your right and 4 on your left. The 5 on your right are kind of aligning to your revenue streams, and the 4 on your left are eventually aligning to your cost structure. So it's very important to pay an attention and very clearly define, Literally, I mean, you have to write it. I mean, I often write it using my pen and paper, or I type it on my laptop, but it's very important to write across all these 9 components. Who are my customers? What's the value that I'm going to sell to my customer? What are the channels that I'm going to explore? What are the relationships and how I'm going to leverage that? How much should be my revenue or my income? And then the key resources, activities, partners, and what is the cost that I'm looking to. So once you have these 9 elements, एक बार ये 9 elements अगर आपने अच्छे से लिख लिया, and literally, I mean, you should spend days and months to write this. अगर ये लिख लिया, तब फिर at least you have a clarity in your mind कि मुझे क्या करना है और मुझे कैसे करना है. Okay. So this is the business model canvas. Okay, now for startups, ये सब हो गया, right? Business model मैंने बना लिया, मुझे पता है मैं क्या sell कर रहा हूँ, who are my customers, everything is done, right? Suppose सब कुछ हो गया. अब क्या? What next? So the next important thing is to get into the market, right? अब जब आप market में जा रहे हो, तो सबसे important factor होता है timing, okay? If you have the first mover advantage, sorry. So the first mover advantage means that, you know, there's no other company, then there's nobody else in this entire market where you are getting in who is doing something similar or who is doing the same thing that you're trying to do. But how do you get the first mover advantage? First mover advantage के लिए you actually need an innovative idea, right? A very very innovative and niche idea. क्योंकि अगर कोई कर नहीं रहा है वो, अगर कोई मार्केट में वो कर नहीं रहा है, तो ऑफ कोर्स इट मींस दैट आपने कुछ एकदम, यू नो, इट्स अ वेरी 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 इनोवेटिव थिंग और बहुत ही अच्छा कोई आइडिया सोचा है, तभी आज तक कोई नहीं कर रहा है, राइट? तो सबसे पहला चीज क्या करते हैं जब आपके दिमाग में एक इनोवेटिव आइडिया आता है? सबसे पहले लोग जाके उसको पेटेंट कराते हैं. इफ यू गेट इट पेटेंटेड, right, if you get the patent done, then at least you are secured कि हाँ, ये idea मेरा है, nobody is going to take it away from me for the next 20 years. Okay, now if we look back into, you know, history, especially let's go back to in time in India, and let's see that who have been, you know, the people who have had the first mover advantage. So for example, e-commerce, okay, say Flipkart or say Amazon. Okay, so both of them came one after the other. Okay, now when Flipkart or when say Amazon came in, there was nobody else in the Indian market back then. Okay, in fact, primarily Flipkart. However, there was actually one player. So e-commerce में एक there was one player जो I think 2002-3 से they are there, जिनको कि हमने कभी भी ध्यान नहीं दिया, बट वो एक ई कॉमर्स कंपनी है इंडिया में जो कि बहुत सालों से है, विच इज कॉल्ड होम शॉप 18. आपने सुना होगा नाम होम शॉप 18 का. टेलीविजन पे चैनल भी आता था वेयर यू कैन ब्राउज थ्रू ऑन द टीवी एंड ऑर्डर प्रोडक्ट्स. सो होम शॉप 18 ई कॉमर्स में बहुत टाइम से था, बट प्रोबेबली दे वे नॉट एबल टू, जो मैंने बिजनेस मॉडल कैनवस आपको दिखाया, लेट मी गो बैक. सो यहाँ पे प्रोबेबली एक एलिमेंट जो है विच इज चैनल्स, है ना, चैनल्स वाला एलिमेंट उन लोगों ने प्रोबेबली अच्छे से एक्सप्लोर नहीं किया. नहीं तो जो कंपनी इतने सालों से इंडिया में थी वो बहुत अलग लेवल पे होती, वो अलग लेवल पे ई कॉमर्स को ले जा चुकी होती बिफोर इवन फ्लिपकार्ट केम इन, राइट? इसीलिए दिस इज द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ ऑल दीज 9 एलिमेंट्स. सारे 9 के 9 चीज अगर सही से होंगे, then only your idea can propel. ये मेरा understanding है. Again, this is very subjective. uh, this is not a mathematics, you know, this is not mathematics or say a question where we are trying to solve कि एक answer आएगा and then हम लोग tally कर सकते हैं कि हाँ ये सही answer है या ये गलत answer है. These are all very subjective, these are all thoughts. ये मेरा thought process है. There can be other people in the world even more, you know, experienced, and there are many many good people than what I have seen in my life so far. उनका थॉट प्रोसेस डिफरेंट होगा, उनके पास शायद और अच्छे आइडियाज हो एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए और अच्छा तरीका हो, बट हाँ ये मेरा तरीका है, एंड आई फील दैट दीज 9 एलिमेंट्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो यू नो, इफ यू हैव द फर्स्ट मूवर एडवांटेज, अगेन अगर आपके पास एक इनोवेटिव आइडिया है, सो फॉरगेट होम शॉप 18. जब फ्लिपकार्ट आई, दिस आइडिया वाज न्यू, दिस आइडिया वाज इनोवेटिव. दे कनेक्टेड विद द मिलेनियल्स. वो जनरेशन से उन लोगों ने कनेक्ट किया जो मोबाइल यूज करना स्टार्ट कर दिए थे, जो दिन रात इंटरनेट पे बैठे रहते थे. तो उन्होंने उनसे कनेक्ट किया थ्रू दैट इंटरनेट का चैनल एंड कहा कि भाई आपको जो भी खरीदना है आप यहाँ से खरीदो एट अ बेटर प्राइस. right? So this was an innovative idea from them to bring the product, send it across to a customer anywhere in India, right? I could have bought a product जो कि शायद मुंबई में हो, and मैं शायद रेवा में बैठा हुआ हूँ, and मुझे मुंबई से मेरा प्रोडक्ट आ रहा है, which probably मैंने कभी सोचा भी नहीं था कि मैं मुंबई से कुछ खरीद सकता हूँ. So this was which they did, and that's why they had the first mover advantage. But of course, they had a lot of close followers or a lot of competition that came into the market eventually, because of which, of course, the probably the targets that they had set, or probably the kind of progression that they would have thought for the business, it was, of course, refrained a little. But this is what timing holds the key. Now, what happens if suppose you have missed on the timing? ओके, मान लो फर्स्ट मूवर एडवांटेज नहीं है, कोई इनोवेटिव आइडिया नहीं है, तो क्या कोई स्टार्टअप नहीं खोल सकता, या क्या कोई बिजनेस नहीं ओन कर सकता है? सो व्हाट हैपेंस इफ यू मिस टू बी द फर्स्ट? सो व्हेन यू मिस टू बी द फर्स्ट, मेरा फिलोसफी है, अगेन एज आई सेड, these are just my thoughts. So when you're missing on to be the first, don't try to be the same. Okay, जब भी ऐसा होता है, डोंट ट्राई टू बी द सेम. मैंने ये पास्ट में देखा है, एंड आई विल गिव यू वन वेरी ब्यूटीफुल एग्जांपल फ्रॉम इंडिया. इंस्टेड ऑफ ट्राइंग टू बी द सेम, ट्राई टू बी डिफरेंट, एंड do things differently across multiple things. Like for example, markets and geographies. Okay, अगर मान लो लेट हो गया है, ऑलरेडी एक स्टार्टअप उसी चीज में कुछ काम कर रहा है जो आपने सोचा. ओके, सो अब होता है कि यू विल गेट अ लिटिल वरीड कि क्या मैं ये करूं, शुड आई डू दिस और शुडंट आई डू दिस? यू शुड डू इट, बट यू शुड डू इट डिफरेंटली. In terms of markets or geographies or regions, you should identify those markets, those regions where probably that existing idea has not yet reached, right? You should try to untap that particular market where probably nobody else has reached earlier. For example, a beautiful example here. There are a lot of what do you say, I mean, there are a lot of e-commerce companies in India now which are trying to have the grocery delivered to you at your doorstep, right? Amazon pantry, then you have big basket and stuff like that, जो grocery आपके घर तक पहुंचाते हैं. अभी अगर मान लो मुझे भी एक स्टार्टअप आइडिया है where I know, मुझे क्लियरिटी है कि मेरे वो 9 एलिमेंट्स क्या है, आई नो हाउ डू आई रीच आउट टू माई कस्टमर, बट आई हैव टू एस्टेब्लिश फर्स्ट, ताकि मैं बड़े लोगों से लड़ सकूं. बड़े लोग इन द सेंस लाइक बिग बास्केट, अमेजन एंड ऑल, उनसे मैं अगर कम्पीट कर सकूं तो मुझे पहले एक एस्टेब्लिशमेंट चाहिए. तो मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, सो दैट एटलीस्ट आई स्टार्ट with my business and I have my tie-ups, मुझे पता है कहाँ से सामान प्रोक्योर करना है, कैसे सामान कस्टमर तक पहुंचाना है, मेरा लॉजिस्टिक पार्टनर्स, कुरियर एजेंसीज, इन सब के साथ टाई अप है. बट आई डोंट नो हाउ टू गेट इन और वेयर डू आई गेट इन. यू कैन गेट इन टू एनीवेयर. मान लो देयर इज अ कंपनी विच इज ऑलरेडी देयर इन से न्यू दिल्ली और मुंबई और पुणे, आप जाके वहां पे भी कर सकते हो. द ओनली चैलेंज इज वहां पे आपको ग्रोथ जो है वो स्लो थोड़ा मिलेगा, राइट? बट व्हाई डोंट यू get into a city? India में इतने सारे cities है, right? So why don't you get into cities which are at say tier 2 or tier 3 level? For example, your own city, Riva. I'm not sure Riva mein if there is a grocery delivery system through a mobile app, but why don't we do something like that in Riva? Or why don't we do something like that in cities around Riva? So these are probably markets, where we can generate this demand. We can probably get into markets where nobody has yet thought of, and this is an example which happened with me. So I come from Ranchi in Jharkhand. So once when I went to Ranchi, and I was working for GeoMart, I went to a store to buy something. I don't remember what, but मैं कुछ सामान खरीदने एक दुकान पे गया था. तो उसमें न्यूज़पेपर में बिग बास्केट का ऐड था, एक अंकल पढ़ रहे थे, एंड बिग बास्केट का बड़ा सा ऐड था. तो उन्होंने क्या बोला कि पता नहीं ये ऐड यहाँ पे क्यों डालते हैं रांची में, ये आखिर रांची में तो है नहीं, हम तो खरीद सकते नहीं है, तो ये यहाँ पे क्यों ऐड डालते हैं. एंड देन उनके जो दोस्त थे उन्होंने रिप्लाई किया कि वो तो ठीक है बट पता नहीं कब रांची में आएगा, ताकि हम लोग घर पे बैठ के ही हम लोग भी आराम से ऑर्डर कर सकें, जैसे टीवी पे दिखाता है एड में। सो कहने का मतलब ये है कि everybody wants to do that, right? People in small cities, they really want to have that level of comfort and convenience जो कि एक बड़े शहर के लोग के पास है, राइट? हर कोई चाहता है कि हम उसी कंफर्ट जोन में रहें, हमको भी वो कन्वीनियंस मिले, हमको भी वो सारे फैसिलिटीज मिले। तो इसीलिए बहुत जरूरी है कि यू कैन गेट इनटू मार्केट्स जहां पे प्रोबेबली ऐसी कोई चीज पहले पहुंची नहीं है, and you can actually untap those markets and generate a potential out of it. This is what we are doing with Gravitas AI, for example. I'm just giving you an example. These are all my practical implications which we are working on right now. And then understand your customer. Okay, this is again a very beautiful retail example. So you should understand ki what is the consumption pattern of your customer. I told it in the beginning, right? Ki I love to get into data and understand ki what is the data saying, and then I would take some business decisions out of that data. And you would have already heard this terminology in the world today. बहुत जगह बोला गया है कि data is the new oil in the world, right? So same thing is if I talk about understanding your customer. So for example, say say that and this is again happened in UK here. So there are fashion accessories companies here. तो जो फैशन एक्सेसरीज कंपनीज है वो लोग लिपस्टिक, नेल पॉलिश एंड व्हाट डू यू से आई लैशेस और जो भी मेकअप का सामान होता है एंड एक्सेसरीज होती है, दे सेल दैट. I'll give you an example from lipstick, what they did. So बहुत बार when you go to a store, okay, and you would see that उसमें products जो होते हैं bundled होते हैं, okay. So you will see कि if suppose girls especially if you are going to buy lipstick, you would see कि okay, red, purple, green, ये 3 lipstick मुझे एक साथ मिल रहा है एक particular packet में, okay. But आपको green नहीं लेना है. आप सोच रहे हो कि अरे यार ग्रीन की जगह अगर रेड, अगर मतलब से पिंक होता तो शायद मैं ले लेती, ओके. बट ये 3 अगर आप साथ में लोगे बंडल करके तो आपको कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव पड़ रहा है. से ये 3 लिपस्टिक आपको 10 पाउंड्स का पड़ रहा है, बट अगर वो तीनों को आप अलग अलग लोगे तो 5-5 पाउंड का एक एक पड़ेगा, तो 15 पाउंड हो जाएगा, राइट? तो आपको कॉस्ट इफेक्टिवनेस वहां दिख रहा है. बट एज अ बिजनेस, ओके, and this is what I always say when I consult, that as a business, if I feel कि हाँ मैंने 3 लिपस्टिक बेच दिया, 2 के ही दाम में बेचा बट मेरा 3 सामान बिक गया, so I should be happy. No. As a business, if I am making that statement, I am missing something there. मैं कुछ वहां पे गलत कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि मेरा कस्टमर जो है वो 100% खुश नहीं हुआ है. उसको एक ऐसा कलर लेना पड़ा जो उसको नहीं लेना था, बट सिर्फ इसलिए क्योंकि प्राइस इफेक्टिव है, इसलिए मेरा कस्टमर खुश है, राइट? बट अब how can you actually tackle this? So this is where your power of data comes in. So there are companies here in UK. उन्होंने क्या किया कि जो रिटेल स्टोर होते हैं, राइट, तो कभी किसी ने सोचा नहीं था कि जो रिटेल कंजम्पशन पैटर्न होता है, अभी जैसे सपोज आप जाते हो बिग बाजार या से रिलायंस ट्रेंड्स और व्हाटएवर you have the malls there in your city. तो जब भी आप जाते हो कुछ खरीदने के लिए, से फैशन एक्सेसरी, तो आप बिल बनवाते हो, दुकान से उठाया आपने, बिल बनाया, आप चले गए. अभी ना तो उस बिल में आपका नाम, जनरली वो लोग नाम भी नहीं लेते हैं, फोन नंबर एंड ईमेल तो भूल ही जाओ, बट दे वोंट टेक योर नेम एंड ऑल, राइट? कुछ लोग का लॉयल्टी प्रोग्राम होता है, दे हैव देयर कार्ड्स एंड ऑल, तो उसमें रिकॉर्ड होगा कि अच्छा ओके, मिस्टर से हिमांशु हैज परचेस्ड दिस और समथिंग लाइक दैट. नाउ दिस डेटा, right, even though uske mein naam nahi hai, but you can leverage that data, and this is what is called understanding the clusters of customers that you have, understanding the segments of customer that you have. So अगर मैं उस डेटा को डीप डाइव करूं, मान लो भोपाल एंड रीवा के बीच में मैं डेटा देख रहा हूं, तो मुझे ये दिखेगा कि हो सकता है रीवा में जो लोग हैं, उन लोगों ने जो दुकान से सामान खरीदा, उसमें अगर किसी ने रेड लिपस्टिक खरीदा और पिंक लिपस्टिक खरीदा, तो उस पर्टिकुलर लड़की ने मरून लिपस्टिक भी खरीदा. बट भोपाल में अगर किसी ने रेड लिपस्टिक और पिंक लिपस्टिक खरीदा, तो उसने मरून नहीं खरीदा, उसने शायद पर्पल लिपस्टिक खरीद लिया और समथिंग लाइक दैट, ओके, तो आपको ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग कहाँ से मिलेगा? ये डेटा से मिलेगा, उसी बिल से जो जनरेट हो रहा है। तो यहाँ पे जो कंपनी है उन्होंने उस बिल को एनालाइज करना शुरू किया एंड फिर उन्होंने अपने पूरे प्रोडक्ट्स को शफल कर दिए। तो वो लोग क्या करते थे, अभी जैसे रीवा एंड भोपाल है, दे आर वेरी क्लोज, राइट? आई थिंक दे आर 1 नाइट अवे इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग। तो इफ सपोज एक सिटी है, उससे दूसरा सिटी 10 आवर्स अवे है, तो जनरली प्रोडक्ट्स डंप होते हैं कंपनीज की साइड से कि ठीक है, ये मेरा एक कार्टन गया लिपस्टिक का, ये यहाँ भी जाएगा, ये वहां भी जाएगा। बट अगर मुझे ये समझ में आ गया कि ये जो कार्टन में भेज रहा हूँ जिसमें 3-3 लिपस्टिक का बंडल किया हुआ है, ये अगर मैं ये 3 वाले बंडल भोपाल बेचूं तो वहां पे ज्यादा बिकेगा, और ये 3 वाले बंडल अगर रीवा भेजूं तो ये ज्यादा बिकेगा। दैट इज वेयर योर डेटा कम्स इनटू प्ले, दैट इज वेयर यू वुड से दैट आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि आपका कस्टमर जो है वो कंजम्पशन कैसे कर रहा है, राइट? तो अगेन ये मैं एग्जांपल बहुत सिंपल सा दिया फ्रॉम अ रिटेल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू टू अंडरस्टैंड कि सेम सिटी विच इज नियर बाय, वहां पे कुछ और कंजम्पशन पैटर्न। दिस इज वेयर वी से कि द कंजम्पशन ट्रेंड and the customers adoption, it depends a lot on the kind of demographics that customer has, उसका background क्या है, कहाँ से आया है, और वो मेल है कि फीमेल है, एज ग्रुप क्या है, कोई देर आर लॉट ऑफ सिटीज जहाँ पे स्टूडेंट्स रहते हैं, जैसे आई स्टे इन लीड्स हियर इन यूके, सो I have a lot of universities around here. There Leeds University, Beckett University, and there are many colleges here. So when I go out, I see that there are a lot of students here on the streets. So I should bundle my products accordingly ताकि students यहाँ पे खरीदें, right? And not कि grown up लोग खरीदें। तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि आपके कस्टमर कैसे हैं और उनका कंजम्पशन कैसे है, एंड देन यू बंडल योर प्रोडक्ट्स। उससे फायदा ये होता है कि योर कॉस्ट गोज डाउन, राइट? एंड यू आर एबल टू सेल एंड जनरेट मोर रेवेन्यू, करेक्ट? नहीं तो देर आर लॉट ऑफ स्टोर्स, देर आर लॉट ऑफ बहुत सारे दुकान होते हैं जहाँ पे सालों साल से प्रोडक्ट एक्सपायर हो जाता है। So that is where I say that data is very important. And again, you can think on these lines across multiple service lines. We are implementing the same thought process in our organization as well, to understand key what can be our prospective customers demand, or what can be his or her expectation. And then this is again very important, get over the traditional sales strategy. So इस particular case में I'll have to take an example of a service organization. So for example, मान लो कि you opened up an IT company. Okay, so मान लो कि आपने एक IT कंपनी खोला। अब आप मान लो मोबिलिटी का काम करते हो, मोबाइल ऐप बनाते हो, या आप क्लाउड पे वेबसाइट बनाते हो या पोर्टल बनाते हो। तो अब जो आप ये आपकी ये क्या है, एक कैपेबिलिटी है, राइट? तो जब आप कस्टमर के पास जाओगे बताने, तो जनरली हम लोग क्या करते हैं कि हम ये बताते हैं कस्टमर को कि हाँ, हम लोगों को वेबसाइट बनाना आता है, हम आपके लिए पोर्टल बना सकते हैं, हम आपका पोर्टल को मोबाइल ऐप पे ही डाल सकते हैं, उस पे आप मीटिंग कर सकते हो, उस पे वीडियो चैट कर सकते हो, ये हो, राइट? तो वो एक कैपेबिलिटी है, एक कॉम्पिटेंसी है। दिस इज हाउ सेल्स यूज्ड टू हैपन। अभी तक ऐसे ही सेल्स करते आ रहे हैं हम लोग सालों साल से, by for last so many decades. But it's very important in this day to day to sell the business outcome rather than selling a capability. So, and this is what again which we are practicing. So instead of telling someone कि hey, हमारी जो टीना है वो ये कर सकती है, वो टीना से हम ये करवा सकते हैं आपके लिए, वो आपके कस्टमर्स के लिए ये कर सकती है, से आपका बैंक अकाउंट फॉर एग्जांपल ओपन करवा सकती है आपका कस्टमर का, या आपको केवाईसी का डॉक्यूमेंट्स कलेक्ट कर सकती है। इंस्टेड ऑफ टेलिंग दिस, अब हम कस्टमर्स के पास जाके क्या कहते हैं, हम कहते हैं कि टीना जो है आपके 4 एम्प्लॉयज को फ्री कर सकती है। वो 4 एम्प्लॉय जो आज तक बैठ के काउंटर पे लोगों का फॉर्म भरवाते थे, वो कुछ और कर सकते हैं, या उनका कॉस्ट को आप 0 कर सकते हो, और वो काम अब टीना कर सकती है। इससे आपका बिजनेस का मार्जिन बढ़ जाएगा। अगर 100 रुपए कमा के आप मतलब अगर 100 रुपए का टर्नओवर पे आप 40 रुपए आज तक कमाते थे, तो अब शायद आप 45 कमा सकते हो, राइट? तो जब मैं एक बिजनेस आउटकम दिखाऊंगा अपने कस्टमर को, तब कस्टमर ज्यादा इंटरेस्टेड होगा। this is what the world has become now. So that's what I say. I mean, you should start selling the business outcomes and showing the business outcome to the end customer or your target customer, rather than showing what is your capability and what is your competence. And this is very important when we are talking about startups, क्योंकि startup में क्या होता है, आपके पास एक ब्रांड नहीं है ना, आप बहुत बड़ा कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन तो हो नहीं कि सालों साल से आप ऑपरेट कर रहे हो। तो जब ऐसा नहीं है, तो उस केस में क्या होता है कि सामने वाले को झिझक होती है, राइट, कि मैं पैसा इस पर्टिकुलर कंपनी को दूं या नहीं दूं, या मैं उससे 10% ज्यादा पैसा देके कोई एग्जिस्टिंग कंपनी जो बहुत बड़ी कंपनी है उसको दे दूं। ये होती है, एंड दिस इज नॉर्मल, आपके साथ भी होती है कि व्हेन यू गो टू बाई एनीथिंग इन द मार्केट, आपको लगता होगा कि यार ये ब्रांडेड आइटम 5 रुपए ज्यादा में मिल रहा है तो इसको ही खरीद लो, 5 ही रुपए लग रहे हैं, ये नया वाला मत लो, राइट। बट वो नया वाला को ट्राई तो करना चाहिए ना, है कि नहीं? अगर ट्राई नहीं करेंगे तो पता कैसे चलेगा कि हो सकता है वो ब्रांडेड वाले से भी अच्छा हो सकता है कल को वो डबल रेट में बिके आज से 5 साल बाद जब वो एस्टेब्लिश हो जाए, करेक्ट। तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू गेट द अटेंशन ऑफ योर कस्टमर, और वो पाने के लिए इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू सेल इट डिफरेंटली, right? So this is where I say that you should try to sell business outcomes and not just your capability and competency. Again, ये सब चीजें हैं how to do things differently. If you remember, अगर आपके पास फर्स्ट मूवर एडवांटेज नहीं है, तो you try to do things all differently, and this is how you can get into or penetrate into a market. Price it in the right way. This is again a very important thing because ये आपके revenue से directly linked है, right? So there are a lot of new pricing models that have evolved into the world today, especially, and this is my favorite, which is called subscription as a service. Okay, so आज I believe personally कि अगर थोड़ा दिमाग लगा के हम लोग सोचें, तो दुनिया में प्रोबेबली ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं है जो हम लोग एज अ सब्सक्रिप्शन नहीं बेच सकते हैं। मैं कंपनी का नाम भूल गया, आई फॉरगॉट द नेम ऑफ द कंपनी, बट देयर इज अ कंपनी इन यूएसए, एंड यू शुड ट्राई टू सर्च इट आउट। देयर इज अ कंपनी इन यूएसए जो कि हर महीने नए सॉक्स, मोजे जो हम लोग जूते में पहनते हैं, तो नए सॉक्स अपने कस्टमर को भेजती है हर महीने। ओके, सो देर आर, अब देखो प्रोडक्ट दो तरह के होते हैं, राइट? एक जो आप महीने महीने कंज्यूम करते हो, जैसे टूथपेस्ट हो गया, साबुन हो गया, सर्फ, डिश वॉशिंग टैबलेट्स एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट। तो आप ये सब जो प्रोडक्ट्स हैं जो आप रेगुलरली हर महीने खरीदते हो या हर 3 महीने पे खरीदते हो मान लो, तो इट कैन बी इवॉल्व इनटू अ सब्सक्रिप्शन मॉडल, right? इसके अलावे there can be new things or there can be other products also that you can evolve into a subscription model, which may be long-term subscription, but it can be also done. For example, simple सा, when you're buying a home, जब आप एक घर खरीद रहे हो, आप EMI देते हो, अब उसको आप एक दूसरे एंगल से, वो एक्चुअली क्या है, वो एक्चुअली आपका सब्सक्रिप्शन प्राइस है उस घर का, राइट? उसमें इंटरेस्ट कंपोनेंट भी है, प्रिंसिपल कंपोनेंट भी है डेफिनेटली, बट वो आपका सब्सक्रिप्शन प्राइस है, राइट? ताकि आप उस घर में रह सको सालों साल, एंड इवन, एंड जब आप इवेंचुअली 20 ईयर्स तक या 30 ईयर्स तक वो सब्सक्रिप्शन प्राइस पे करते हो उस घर के लिए, तब वो घर पूरी तरह आपका हो जाता है। This is what happens everywhere. So there are new pricing models, not just this subscription as a service, but there are many what do you say, hybrid models which are evolving, and we should try to explore, and in fact we should think about something new. Subscription as a service आखिर किसी ने तो सोचा ही, right? तो हमें भी वैसे सोचना चाहिए। हर चीज आजकल सब्सक्रिप्शन पे है, okay? Netflix, Amazon Prime and everything. So pricing is again very important, and this is where a lot of thought should go in. My personal favorite is subscription, but of course abhi even I'm reading and I'm also trying to understand what more can be there, ya main kuch soch sakta hu kya, so we are doing that, and of course you guys should also be investing your time into it, and then engaging in new ways, add a convenience to your end users. Okay, abhi isme I'll give you a very beautiful example from Indian history. Okay, telecom market. So telecom market was already mature. I'm talking about 2016, 4 साल पहले telecom market already mature था. Airtel, BSNL, Aircel, Vodafone, Idea, Tata Docomo, Indicom and blah blah, कितने सारे थे. Even I remember Videocon तक SIM manufacture कर रहा था. Then there was Uninor or something. So there were a lot of telecom players, right? Back in 2000, ओके, अब टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, अगर आपके पास करोड़ों रुपए क्यों ना हो, you have surplus amount of money, but even after you have so much money, will you be interested to take a risk to enter into a market जो कि already mature है, already established player है, लोगों के पास already everything has become very very affordable. What can you do there? But Jio entered, right? Jio took that risk, and today it is the biggest company in India in telecom in just 4 years. Why did they do it? I mean, how did they do it rather? Because they added convenience to the end user, right? Jio ने अपने end customer को बोला, आपको ये परेशानी होता है, ये हम solve कर रहे हैं, और या फिर rather I would say यही हम solve कर रहे हैं. परेशानी क्या थी? एंड आई थिंक आप भी रिलेट करोगे, मैं तो करता ही था जब मैं इंडिया में था, आप भी ये करते थे. जब आप 2015-16 का मैं बात करूं, हम डेटा ऑन ऑफ करते थे, राइट? स्मार्टफोन तो हम सबके पास आ गया था, राइट? बट जब तक हम वाईफाई नेटवर्क में नहीं रहते थे, हम अपना डेटा को ऑन करते थे, चेक करते थे नोटिफिकेशन या ईमेल या व्हाट्सएप, फिर डेटा को ऑफ कर देते थे, राइट? या फिर जब हम रोमिंग में जाते थे, हम जब दूसरे शहर जाते थे या दूसरे स्टेट जाते थे रोमिंग में, तो हम लोग फोन नहीं उठाते थे. क्यों? क्योंकि रोमिंग चार्जेस लगेंगे, करेक्ट? या कॉल नहीं करेंगे जनरली हम लोग जल्दी, क्योंकि रोमिंग चार्जेस हाई होते थे. चाहे पोस्टपेड हो या प्रीपेड हो, आपका पैसा तो कट जाता था, राइट? एक और चीज, जब हम लोग उस टाइम पे we were trying to get into network related stuffs or things like that, कि भाई यहाँ पे जैसे for example, and I was surprised to know when I moved to Mumbai, मुंबई में till the time Tata Indicom, right, Tata Docomo, till the time Tata Docomo was closed, Mumbai में they only had 2G network. मुंबई जैसे शहर में टाटा डोकोमो was not having a 3G or a 4G network. Now it was not कि वो कर नहीं सकते थे, but there were a lot of rules and regulations जिसके वजह से भी that was hindered. So what I'm trying to say is कि एक तो नेटवर्क कनेक्टिविटी इश्यूज था. हम लोग हमेशा ये सोचते थे कि यार नेटवर्क नहीं आ रहा, ट्रेन में ट्रेवल कर रहे हैं तो नेटवर्क चला गया, फ्लाइट तो एनीवेज चला ही जाता है, बट whenever we are traveling we lose the network and so what did Jio do? Jio said no, going forward आज के बाद आपको डेटा लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. Going forward you don't need to think how going forward you don't need to think exactly कि whether you can pick up the call on in when you are in roaming or not, right? So Jio added a convenience to the end user, right? उन्होंने धीरे धीरे मार्केट में बस, इनफैक्ट when I started using Jio, when I actually joined Jio, उसके पहले मेरे पास Jio नहीं था, but when I joined Jio Mart, I started using Jio, and then I was surprised, seriously I was surprised. मुझे लगता था शायद ओवर हाइप्ड है, बट देन आई गॉट टू नो कि नहीं यार, दिस इज एक्चुअली रियली गुड. मतलब आई इवन यूज्ड टू गेट नेटवर्क इन लिफ्ट समटाइम्स जहाँ पे किसी का नहीं आता. Okay, so they added convenience. They made sure that you are getting abundance of data, and they created these hybrid engagement models with you. Similarly in retail में अभी क्या हुआ? Retail में there are I'm not sure if you guys know about these terminologies, but there are terminology called B2B. B2B is business to business, and B2C is business to customer. So business to customer is जो मैं दुकान से जाके सामान खरीदता हूँ वो हो गया एक B2C सेल, और जो दुकान वाला मैन्युफैक्चरर से खरीदता है वो हो गया एक B2B सेल. ठीक है, तो रिटेल में पहले यही दो मॉडल था, B2B, B2C. अभी there is a new model which is evolving, right? UK में there's a company called Dyson. India में I think there are companies like Dell, Redmi. These have evolved into a new model called D2C. D for Delhi, D2C, which is called direct to customer. तो ये कंपनीज क्या बोलती है? These are new engagement models. ये कंपनीज कहती हैं कि भाई D2C, डायरेक्ट टू कस्टमर, ना तो हम कोई दुकान के थ्रू बेचेंगे, ना हम कोई ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म के थ्रू बेचेंगे, हम डायरेक्ट अपने कस्टमर को बेचेंगे. आप हमारे वेबसाइट पे आओ, हमारे वेबसाइट से खरीदो और ले जाओ सामान, हम आपको डिलीवर करेंगे. So there are a lot of these new things which are coming up. JioMart में there is a new concept of B2B2C. हम कस्टमर को सर्विस करेंगे अपने मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब से रिटेलर के थ्रू, तो चूंकि हम रिटेलर के थ्रू जाएंगे तो हम उसे B2B2C कहेंगे. There are a lot of articles about this on internet these days. So there again, these are all different ways to do things, different ways to engage with your customer, add a convenience to your end user. So kabhi bhi aapke dimag mein kuch idea ho, whenever you're thinking about starting a business or something like that, this is again one very important aspect, because this is something which will push your product into the market, right? It will just push you and excel you to the top. So yeah, so I would say, so with this I would also end our presentation. I would say that if you plan it well, you would always achieve it, right? You just need to plan it. The planning should not just be to understand what product should I make, but again, as I said, it's very important to understand how do I sell that product, or how do I take the product to market. Okay, so अगर मान लो आपके पास एक प्रोडक्ट या एक सर्विस या आपके दिमाग में एक आइडिया इज रेडी. Now, this is where, when your idea is already ready with you, you should now start to understand how do I take it ahead into the market. So business model canvas, always remember that. And then when you're planning to get into the market, you need to do a thorough market research, right? Market research, including everything. So for example, when you do market research, you would try to understand which regions should I enter. As I said, you can explore regions where nobody is there, right? So that you get the first mover advantage in that region, right? And you create a buzz in that region. You should also understand through market research कौन से industries में मुझे मेरे service को sales मिल सकता है. Which are the industries where I can actually get in. You would be surprised to know that, जैसे मैंने बोला, रीवा एंड भोपाल का एग्जाम्पल, तो वैसे ही there are two countries here in Europe which are very close to each other, France and Italy. The way people consume things in France is completely different than what they do in Italy, and this is what is in the minds of the business houses as well, right? So from a service organization, just say Gravitas AI, so it's a service organization, right? We have a product through which we are trying to service to our customer, which is the AI product, the artificial intelligence product. So the artificial intelligence product that we are taking into market, it's very important for us to understand which markets do we exactly get in, and which are the industries in that particular market जहां पे मुझे सबसे पहले traction मिलेगा. At the same time, it's also important to understand what are my competitors, right? कितने लोग हैं इस particular market में already? How many local players are there? How many established brands are there? So that I can time my product right, or I can at least tag the right differentiating factor to my product, right? So it's very important to understand your competition as well. वो लोग क्या बेच रहे हैं, वो कितना differently बेच रहे हैं, उनका product कैसा है, are there anything कुछ ऐसा है क्या जो वो नहीं है उनके प्रोडक्ट में जो हमारे में है, तो that becomes a differentiating factor, for example, right? So it's very important to understand your competitors very well. And then once you have these things defined in your mind, market research and competitive research, these are additional to the business model canvas. You have to then define what are your short-term and long-term goals. You should start chasing your goals after that, and then you scale your business. एक बार आपने short term और long term goals achieve कर लिया, then you can scale your business to new heights across the world, across the geographies. This is again a very beautiful thing at Reliance. Before they take on India, right? अभी COVID में JioMart got launched across India, right? How did it happen? ऐसा तो नहीं था कि suddenly एक रात हो गया, right? So they have been, we all have been working for quite some time. I was also a part of that team. But the best thing which I love about Reliance was that they first experiment, they first chase their short-term and long-term goals in and around Mumbai and Maharashtra. And once they start seeing results, and once they think, this is something which is really good, that is when they explode it entirely into the entire India, entire country. They scale it to new geographies, new industries, new places. That's what I call that. Once you have achieved and you know that you are getting results, you should then scale it to new horizons. So eventually, I believe these are 4 steps which once you have done, it's very easy to establish yourself as a brand. And obviously, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen just in few days or few months. It takes time. It takes a lot of time, if especially if you are doing something completely new. Especially if suppose your company or your organization has never done something like that, then of course it's going to take much time, but eventually you can establish yourself as a brand. So that's what I mean. With that, I will end it. I would say that, if you plan it well, you would definitely achieve it well. Business model canvas, differentiating factors, timing, innovative ideas. I mean, these are few things which should get into a startup or should go into the minds of people who are trying to start. And I think definitely you can get results. So I would end this presentation with a very beautiful quote from Ratan Tata, which says, ups and downs in life, they're very important to keep us going, because a straight line, even in an ECG, means that we are not alive. So with that, I thank you very much for your time and patience to hear me out. And I hope that, there was some takeaways from this entire presentation. So yeah, over to the organizer.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on the topic, how to grow your startup. So you have shared your own personal experiences, and support offered to us is immense. Some of the key takeaways shared by you include: what are the do's and don'ts of a business? You have very clearly explained to us the terms startup and business. Also, how your own idea, that is Tina, has turned out to be a successful startup. You have also explained the important components of a startup, such as how to reach out to the customer, the relevance of building a good relationship with the customer, revenue generation, partnership, etc. Also, the fundamentals of marketing, such as first mover advantage. So we have to understand that the importance of having an innovative idea, that is how to do things differently. And also you have explained the relevance of setting goals. So before we conclude, I would like to ask the participants whether you have any queries. That is, if you want to ask any query, you can unmute yourself and ask directly.
Yeah, so I see that there are a few questions in the chat as well. So one question which is there is that from Dheeraj Kumar Pandey is that can we patent our idea before executing it? So yeah, you can get your ideas also patented, but again, patents are, it's a very complicated process altogether. There are patents which are specific to countries. Like for example, if suppose we file for a patent in UK and somebody else is trying to do something similar in India, we may not have a right over that organization, right? So there are different ways to even file patents. You can file a patent in India, you can file a patent in UK. There are organizations which file a global patent across the world. So उस केस में it's like कि अगर आपका आइडिया पेटेंट करा लिया आपने across the world, अगर कोई भी कुछ और वैसा कर रहा है तो then you can literally hold the ears and say कि बॉस ये मेरा आइडिया है ये तुम कैसे ले रहे हो. बट अगेन उसमें एक कैच क्या है कि पेटेंट्स जनरली टेक अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम. सो आज अगर आपने पेटेंट फाइल किया है तो आपको पेटेंट आने में इट टेक्स एटलीस्ट 18 to 24 months, मतलब 1.5 से 2 साल लग जाते हैं. एंड ओनली व्हेन यू गेट दैट पेटेंट, और ये भी हो सकता है बहुत बार कि आफ्टर यू हैव फाइल्ड अ पेटेंट 18 महीने के बाद यू डिड नॉट गेट अ पेटेंट, ये भी हो सकता है. So it's very important to know how to file the patent. There are a lot of companies and organizations and agencies in particular जो कि आपको हेल्प करते हैं टू अंडरस्टैंड कि हाउ डू आई फाइल माई पेटेंट, ताकि मेरा पेटेंट जो है वो पक्का से ग्रांट हो जाए. तो दे वुड डू ऑल काइंड ऑफ रिसर्च टू सी कि कोई और आइडिया है क्या कहीं. देन दे वुड ट्विस्ट अ लिटिल, दे वुड ट्राई टू प्रेजेंट योर आइडिया इन अ डिफरेंट वे, या कुछ अगर आर्किटेक्चर है उसमें या कोई डिजाइन है उसमें तो दे वुड ट्राई टू डू सम चेंजेस इन योर डिजाइन एंड आर्किटेक्चर ताकि आपका पेटेंट आपको ग्रांट हो जाए. So yeah, so this is how you do a patent, and yeah, you can get an idea also patented. And then so this is really great that there is a grocery delivery system being established in Riva. That's really great. It's actually, entire India should become digital very soon. Then there's a question from Harsh Sharma, how to start with AI skill without any science background. So, there are a lot of things that can be computer science, AI and coding. Okay, Python में या बैठ के कोडिंग करने को ही सिर्फ ये नहीं बोलते हैं कि you have an AI skill and all, right? You need to understand AI. You can build up strong use cases. You can write algorithms, right? So जब आप स्कूल में थे या जब आप कॉलेज में भी हो, तो आपके कंप्यूटर साइंस वाले प्रोजेक्ट में और सब्जेक्ट में आपको बहुत बार एल्गोरिदम्स लिखने मिलता है, राइट? फ्लो चार्ट लिखने मिलता है. तो फ्लो चार्ट और एल्गोरिदम्स तो एनीबडी कैन राइट, करेक्ट? तो हाउ डू यू ट्रेन योर रोबोट, और हाउ कैन यू लेवरेज आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस टू प्रोबेबली इन नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग? डेटा कहाँ से कहाँ फ्लो हो सकता है, कैसे डेटा को प्रोसेस कर सकते हैं ताकि आपका रोबोट जो है वो ट्रेन होता जाए, नई चीजें सीख सके, राइट? सो ऑल दोस फ्लो चार्ट, द प्रोसेस फ्लोज, the algorithms that can be written by you. So it's not required कि you should have a computer science का ही background. Computer science का background वाले लोग भी हो सकता है नहीं कर पाए क्योंकि Python अलग से सीखना पड़ता है, right? But and Python is a very easy language. वहाँ पे literally you write instead of many syntax जो होता है Java में, C++ में, उसमें syntax का problem नहीं है. You literally write stories. So if you try to learn, there are a lot of good forums. LinkedIn Learning है, you have Udemy, and I think there are multiple platforms in India as well jahan pe you can try and read and learn about it. Even YouTube is very handy in that case, but definitely you can do that. It's not required that you need to have a computer science background, but yeah, you need to invest a lot of time because first you need to understand what is AI, right? And how does it work, and only then you will be able to prepare those algorithms and stuff like that. What is the cost of patent and what are its advantages? So the cost of patent, again, it keeps varying, and the cost of patent is very less actually. Patent का दाम बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं होता है. Like in UK, it is I think around 290 pounds or something for a patent. India maybe I guess it's around 20,000 or 26,000 for a patent. The cost actually comes in when you are hiring a agency, right? Say आपने आइडिया बना लिया, but you need somebody ना जिसको पूरा दुनिया का आइडिया का पता हो ताकि वो बता सके कि तुम्हारे आइडिया को पेटेंट मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा. तो वो एजेंसी जो है दे विल चार्ज मोर बिकॉज दे वुड डू सम research work so that you can get a patent definitely granted. But ideally, if it's a completely new idea in your mind, then the cost of patent is somewhere in the range of 20 to 25,000. How this was question from Ankit, and then Harsh has again asked that as Tina is your AI bot, do you think your service is cutting jobs? Not exactly, Harsh, because instead, we are trying to project it in a way that Tina can take away the mundane tasks, the additional tasks, which and जो भी capabilities हैं Tina के, we have built up those capabilities which can help the people to get things done faster. Okay, so say जैसे मैंने बैंकिंग वाला एग्जांपल दिया, तो से एक पर्टिकुलर बंदा जो बैंक के काउंटर पे बैठता है एंड ही हेल्प्स पीपल टू ओपन अप देयर बैंक अकाउंट्स. अभी वो एक दिन में शायद 4 अकाउंट ओपन करता है, करेक्ट? एंड उसके पास लंबी लाइन रहती है. बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि आप फिर फॉर्म दे देते हो कि कल आके जमा कर दीजिएगा और समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो दैट कैन बी टेकन ऑफ, राइट? आप शायद एक ही दिन में 10 को कर दो, या फिर हो सकता है कि टीना की मदद से आपके पास कुछ ऐसा फ्री टाइम मिले कि आप कुछ और में अपना टाइम इन्वेस्ट कर सको. या आप 5 बजे आपका बैंक बंद होता है तो आप 5 बजे घर चले जाओ, ना कि 6 बजे तक बैठे रहो, राइट? सो it's very important to understand ki how we are using technology. And I think in the world today, and I guess you would have already seen news, I think ये news अभी एक similar news came 2 years back. You guys might have read about it, कि Facebook ने जो चैटबॉट्स बनाए थे वो आपस में ही बात कर रहे थे. दे क्रिएटेड देयर ओन लैंग्वेज, उन्होंने अपना ही लैंग्वेज क्रिएट करके एक पर्टिकुलर बात करने लग गए आपस में जो कि किसी को समझ में नहीं आया. तो फेसबुक को अपने पूरे सर्वर्स को क्लोज करना पड़ा. दे शट डाउन देयर एंटायर सर्वर बिकॉज इट वाज अ थ्रेट कि पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा. नेक्स्ट द थिंग वाज दैट अगर मान लो आप 2 दिन पहले की बात है या 1 वीक पहले की बात है कि फेसबुक ने फिर से ऐसा ही एक न्यूज आया था कि चैटबॉट्स जो है फेसबुक के वो आपस में बात कर रहे हैं. तो कहने की मतलब ये है कि this entire technology, it is I mean, everything comes with its pros and cons, right? Like we always say. So this entire technology has its benefits as well as its disadvantages as well. But eventually, I understand that the world has accepted AI and machine learning and stuffs like that to augment human beings, humans को help करने के लिए, ना कि replace करने के लिए. So I think that kind of a thought process is already being built up, and it's just to make sure कि your work is done easily so that your people can focus somewhere else. Yeah, so that's again for Tina. That's what is in our mind as well. Next is Vaibhav. How do I validate my idea? So validation, I guess, if you want to validate, you need to actually get into a lot of website research or search. So Google to ek apna, it's like the Bible of search. So that is where first validation, first step of validation हो गया कि ऐसा कुछ आइडिया ऑलरेडी है क्या. ट्राई टू यूज द कीवर्ड्स. जैसे मान लो अगर कुछ एक प्रोडक्ट बनाए हो तो उससे रिलेटेड जो एडवांटेज है, राइट, वो डालने की कोशिश करो कि वैसा कोई प्रोडक्ट है क्या, या क्वेश्चंस पूछने की कोशिश करो. Quora पे then there is a lot of there are a lot of people who interact and tag. I mean, these are first level of validations which I am telling. Then you can check it on Twitter. You can hashtag the right people, or use the right hashtags. So hashtags are the most basic way of digital marketing, right? So hashtags सही use करके you can reach out to the right people to know कि भाई ऐसा कोई idea है तो बताओ, right? I am looking for this, so can you or can somebody else tell about that thing? So that is something which can be done. Now these are again at the first level, but if I talk about second level from your perspective, you should start getting into reports. So there are a lot of analysts, right? There are a lot of analysts like Gartner, Forrester, IDC, HFS from IT perspective. Then there are a lot of reports that come in from Nielsen. So these are all research firms. So you should try to get on their website, their search engines, and try to understand कि ऐसा कुछ idea है क्या, because अगर है तो उन लोगों ने जरूर कहीं ना कहीं cover किया होगा किसी format में या other format में. So these are the two things that you can do on your own, right? Google Scholar, Engineering Village, I mean, all these certified, or rather not certified I would say, but all the reliable sources, you can check for your idea there कि ऐसा कुछ है क्या. And then eventually I would say that for 100% एकदम proper thing कि हाँ कोई ऐसा idea नहीं है, of course there are agencies which specifically do this kind of a work, क्योंकि उनके पास access होता है to the patent bodies. Okay, तो जैसे government की जो patent organizations होते हैं उनका उनसे tie up होता है, so they can actually kind of do a thorough search and let you know कि भाई हाँ आपका idea है या नहीं. How do I determine my startup costs and other expenses? So this is what you can actually, what do you say, I mean, you can actually get into जो मैंने business model canvas बताया था, तो उसमें actually on the left hand side जो चीजें हैं, like your key resources, so you can just have a simple Excel sheet, and basically the cost is spread across two parts. एक हम बोलते हैं उसको fixed cost और दूसरा बोलते हैं variable cost, right? तो fixed cost जो है वो तो fixed है, वो तो रहेगा ही रहेगा. जैसे मान लो स्टार्टअप कर रहे हो, एक ऑफिस चाहिए, तो जो मेरा ऑफिस का लीज है, राइट, द मंथली रेंट दैट यू पे, वो तो फिक्स्ड है, दैट इज डेफिनेटली गोइंग टू बी देयर एवरी मंथ. जो बिजली का बिल है, दैट इज आल्सो फिक्स्ड, राइट, थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे होता है बट more or less it's going to be fixed, right? Water charges, utility bills. So similarly you define कि भाई ये मेरा fixed cost है. अगर उस product को बनाने के लिए you need some sort of software, मान लो Adobe का Photoshop चाहिए for example, मान लो, so Photoshop comes with a license, so that goes into your fixed cost again, right? So you try to categorize कि these are my fixed cost, and then your variable cost. अब variable cost क्या हो सकता है? So variable cost is like you want to sell your product, तुमने बना लिया product, and then you want to sell it to a particular customer. Now that customer is in Delhi, right? He wants to meet you. So when you go to meet the customer, you have to buy your flight ticket, you have to book your hotel. If suppose you are hiring a new person into your team, उसके लिए लैपटॉप खरीदना, राइट, वर्क स्टेशन चाहिए, तो दीज गो इनटू योर वेरिएबल कॉस्ट. देना है बट उसको लैपटॉप एक बार खरीद के देना है, राइट, दैट विल अगेन गो इनटू योर वेरिएबल कॉस्ट. सो इवेंचुअली दिस इज हाउ you calculate or split your costs, and this is how you eventually what do you say, in progress on defining these are my costs and these are my expenses. But primarily it's fixed cost and variable cost, and then categorized as manpower expenses, capital expenses, and then the variable would be in operating expenses. So there are a lot of terminologies used like capex, opex, and stuff like that. You can read about it. It's again a very deep subject, to be honest. So I think I answered the questions in the chat. If there are any more questions which anybody wants to ask, I think definitely they can unmute themselves and ask. Yeah.
Sir, I think there are no more queries. And
Okay.
thank you very much, sir. So now I
Very
call
good
Mr.
afternoon, sir.
Lokanath. Okay. One query is coming.
Very good afternoon, sir. Shreyas this side. I am working as a member and overall coordinator of the e-cell of our college. So I have a
Sorry,
very basic question.
your voice,
Is my voice breaking, sir?
voice is breaking. Shares. Hello.
So can you hear me now?
Shreyas, actually your voice was breaking. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, sir. So there's a very basic query
Yeah, I can
that
hear you now.
right. So, sir, I see there is a huge potential in kind of very indigenous art. That is of, you must have heard about that betel nut, supadi kind of thing. So in Riva, it is very much famous. The Supadi artifacts are very much famous. So, and we have very first mover advantage in that field. So, how can you, sir, how can we globalize that idea? That how to develop that as a startup and then promote that globally so that it could be made a very successful business. And I see it has a lot of potential to be built into a business.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, so I am not exactly aware about that artifact business, but or that artifact, but definitely, if it is something unique, okay. So I know about something similar, which is a painting from this thing from Bihar, the Madhubani painting, right? So I know a person in Mumbai who sells the Madhubani painting. So he buys the Madhubani paintings from Patna or somewhere. He goes there, he takes a flight, and then he buys and comes back to Mumbai, and he sells it in Mumbai. And you would be surprised to know that the paintings that he buys for 50 rupees and 100 rupees in Patna, he sells it for 5,000 and 10,000 in Mumbai, right? So I forgot the name of his platform, but eventually he has started to build up his brand. So I would say, you need to start somewhere exactly. If that is something very unique, and if that is something which can be taken to the market, I think you need to start somewhere through a platform there. Now that platform can be your own, okay, first thing. So when I'm talking about your own platform, then your own platform can be built upon a lot of what do you say, options that are there in the world today. So for example, if you talk about building your own e-commerce platform, of course it will require a little bit of investment in the beginning, but there are stuffs which come in from, say, Shopify, or even the providers like GoDaddy and Big Rock. They are also providing their own e-commerce venture. So first thing would be to probably build up that platform so that people can be redirected to it. And then the best way to take these things forward is through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The social media marketing, this is something which has to be perfect. So probably you would like to engage with a digital marketing company which can actually help you market in the right way. And they would be probably promoting your website, and they would not be promoting your website from their platform, but they would make sure that your own Facebook channel, say you have a page or your Twitter handle, it starts getting traction and people start seeing what you post, and you will eventually see that you are growing in that sense that you would see that your Facebook page visits are growing, likes are growing, Twitter is growing, and eventually it would be redirected to your website traffic as well, कि हाँ मेरे website का traffic भी eventually grow हो रहा है. So I mean, just imagine, right, that आज 100 लोग visit कर रहे हैं, कल 1000 visit कर रहे हैं, eventually अगर वो बढ़ रहा है, overall pan India पे वो visit हो रहा है, तो eventually when you have more number of visitors, definitely you will have more number of conversions, right? However, the conversion factor still in India remains below 10%, but if you have 100 visitors, at 10% you got 10 sales. If you got 1000 visitors, at 10% you got 100 sales. So eventually this is how you can grow. But I would say that if this is a unique thing as per you, I mean, if this is a unique kind of a approach where you're trying to sell something which is very particular to that region, you should try to market that product with that region, right? Ki bhai, this is a unique blend from Riva, and this is something very very what do I say, close to the people of Riva, and everybody in the world can experience it through your platform, right? And even your brand, if you have already chosen your brand, that's fine, but if you are yet to choose your brand name, it should symbolize that. So you should, I mean, there are lot of thinking should go into that as well. And then with that differentiating factor, build up your website, because that is very important. People should know that this is a credible source, right? आप समझ सकते हो, a lot of frauds also happen, so people become a little afraid, they become a little hesitant कि यार ये payment करें कि नहीं, यहाँ से खरीदें कि नहीं. So it's very important to understand कि क्या exactly sell कर रहे हैं और कहाँ से कर रहे हैं, लोगों को वहाँ पे credibility दिखना चाहिए. And it's very easy to do these days. You can get a e-commerce website, I think, in 1400 rupees or 1300 rupees a month or something like that, with a proper payment gateway and everything done. So that can be done. And digital marketing agencies involve or get involved with digital marketing agencies, again, do things differently, explore hybrid engagement model. So instead of probably टाइंग अप विथ अ डिजिटल मार्केटिंग एजेंसी जो कि सालों साल से डिजिटल मार्केटिंग के काम कर रहा है एंड लाखों करोड़ों रुपए लेते हैं फॉर मार्केटिंग एंड फॉर बिल्डिंग अप योर डिजिटल मार्केटिंग स्ट्रेटेजी, इंस्टेड ऑफ वर्किंग विद देम, इन्वॉल्व योरसेल्फ विथ अ स्टार्टअप इन डिजिटल मार्केटिंग एजेंसी. उनके साथ हाइब्रिड एंगेजमेंट मॉडल करो कि बॉस, मैं तुम्हें लाखों का पेमेंट अभी नहीं करता हूँ, बट लेट अस बी पार्टनर्स, एंड मैं तुम्हारे साथ मिलके ये सेल्स ड्राइव करता हूँ, ताकि इवेंचुअली जो सेल्स आएगा आपके कैंपेन के थ्रू, उसका हम एक पर्टिकुलर परसेंटेज आपको देंगे. आई मीन, दिस इज अगेन एन हाइब्रिड engagement model which I'm trying to tell to you that this is how you should think of going forward. Kyunki of course you should not be spending too much of amount also there, right? So I think these are a few ways which I can think of, and of course we can definitely connect offline, and I can definitely share some more leads or some more advice if you need. Did that answer your question, Shreyas? I mean, in a way.
Yes, sir. Of course. Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So we will conclude this. So the link for the feedback for today's webinar will be circulated. So I request all participants to give your valuable feedback. The e-certificate will be sent to you in the email address that you provide while filling the feedback form. So this process may take up to 3 days. So thank you all for joining this webinar.
Okay, thank you guys for having me. Thank you.
And special thanks to Kumar. And thank you all the participants.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.